Good morning, y'all. Welcome into Coffees and Conversation with your boy, Joe Lockett. How y'all doing this morning? Y'all know where I am. I'm live at the Filter Coffee Parlor this morning with another amazing show with coffee with a friend. Today, I may be in trouble because he's of the cloth. And I don't know if he was sent here to chastise me today, baptize me today, or just have a cup of coffee. Brandon Matthews is in the building, but it's going to be a great conversation. Family man, motivational speaker, doing TEDx talks. You know, we're going to talk about all that great stuff. But I want to talk to him about something that's very important to me. How did he stay married for 17 years? I've been divorced twice. I don't know, y'all. But anyway, he's in the building, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all grab your coffee. Thank y'all guys so much for following all our shows, man, on Lockett and Media, man. I got to say thank y'all, man. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, make sure you go to LIM Network on YouTube. Follow the Joe Lockett Show, Joe Lockett. I do everything social media, or just follow LIM. Thank y'all so much. And our new show, it drops on Thursday, 12 noon. Joe Lockett 1-on-1. I have the one and only Genesis player. She's going to be on there talking about public schools versus charter schools. Got a secret interview coming up, y'all, that I can't talk about it right now because we're still working on it. But one of these interviews coming up here pretty soon, y'all. But anyway, back to the Coffees and Conversations. Have y'all been on TEDx? You know something? I got to talk to people because no one has never called me to do TEDx, and I don't know why. To the person that enjoyed TEDx, I don't know why. But we're going to be talking a lot about TEDx. We have great speakers going to be coming here in August to Alabaster, right? And they're going to be speaking on a plethora of different topics. So make sure you get your tickets. We're going to be putting up advertisement throughout the show to talk about it. I'm going to ask Brandon to talk about it a little bit more. But before I get into all of that, I would love to talk to you guys about something that this week I have had an epiphany. Have you ever just sat back sometime, y'all, and think about how blessed you are? That was a time in my life I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I had did to piss off God. I didn't know had I pissed off God. I didn't know I was going to lay my head at one point in time. I didn't know I was going to make money. And when I say now that I wake up and I'm going to be 55 on July the 13th, and God has blessed me in so many in the last 5 to 6 years, I can't even begin to imagine. I would be here. I felt I would, but I didn't know I would be here. And I want to say, I think since 2019 to now, it's been a journey. But the one thing I learned through that process, y'all, while y'all drinking your coffee this morning, be uncomfortable. It's okay. I'm talking to you right there, sitting there drinking your coffee right now, and you got a problem going on, right? If you don't know what to do, it's something that happened to you right now. Take a deep breath. Tomorrow is going to come. That problem will eventually solve itself or go away, or you'll find a solution, or God gonna send somebody for you. Now, that's tough for you to hear right now. Trust me, I know that. It's tough for you to hear. However, I can sit here and tell you, man, I am a witness. I don't sit on the morning bench every Sunday. I can't quote Bible scriptures like nothing, but I do know he exists, because only God could have got me through what I went through and gave me the patience and gave me the endurance to get up every day and still can say, let me say this. When you're broke and you still saying you're gonna be a millionaire and you have no idea where your next paycheck gonna come from or where you're gonna lay your head at, there's something inside of you, right, that ain't got nothing to do with you, that's pushing you. That was God for me. Because I still was saying, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be on TV. I'm going to still be in radio. I'm going to do all of these things. And I had nothing. I had lost everything. Everybody walked away. No fault of my own now. I'm not blaming nobody. But I'm just saying, at that time, I was angry. Be careful what you ask God for in this season, right? When you're down and out, because you're making a lot of promises. Now, I'm going to talk to the pastor about this in a little while, y'all. The motivational speaker, he's in the building. But you're making a lot of promises right now. Yeah, you're making a lot of promises right now. Are you going to be able to keep them when God started blessing you? Because there's a price you're going to have to pay for those things that he's going to bless you with. You're going to lose some things. Some things are going to be taken away from you. Are you ready to pay that price? So be very careful for what you're asking for where you want to go to. Because there's going to be work on your part. Because God always going to do his part. But what happens is, for what I had to learn is a lot of times we don't do our part. Right? And I can honestly say once I started learning that I had to do my part too, man, God started blessing me, hands over. That's why this show. That's why I have you guys right now. That's why I have a network. That's why I have the one and only Brandon Matthews in the building with me today, because he wanted to sit down and talk with your boy over coffee. And without any further ado, y'all don't want to hear me go on and on, right? Or do you? But you're not. Hey, man, grab your coffee, y'all, because the man, he's in the building. So looking forward to this conversation over coffee with my friend. Good morning, Brandon. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Man, welcome to the show.
Chastised, baptized, and coffee. We may do all three. Come on.
Amen. Hallelujah. So how you doing this morning, man?
I'm good. Hey, I'm on the Joe Lockett show. This is awesome.
Man, I appreciate you coming out and taking the time because I know you're busy.
Yeah.
So what you been up to?
Oh, man, everything. We just, you saying that, I love what you're talking about, because that's every day getting up, man, being thankful to be here. Better than I was yesterday, because I woke up today and more blessed than I deserve. And so God's good. And I'm just glad to hang out with you and have a conversation.
Let me ask you a question before we get into your story, for everything that you do. On your worst day when it was bad for you.
Yeah.
Right. First of all, how long you been a pastor?
Oh, man, I've been about all my life.
No. How long you been a pastor?
I pastor when I was 18. So 5 years.
So, okay.
Church center.
18 years, 18, 20
long
years.
time, yeah.
Okay, so on your worst day, right? When everything was going bad, Brandon, I want to talk to you. Everything was like, man, worst day.
Yeah.
Did you still believe in God?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And were you getting on your knees praying, or were you saying, yo, man, what's up?
Yeah. Man, everybody's got those bad days. Okay. Here's what everybody needs to know. You think, why me? Is it only me? What did I? You said it. What did I do to make God mad? Right. The truth is, we all have them. I've been in those places where somebody said, hey, I'm going to pray for you. And I thought, if you say you're going to pray for me one more time, I'm just going to punch you in the teeth. Like, I don't need you to pray. Okay. I just need you to fix it. You know what I'm saying? Right. I knew. I know what they're saying, and I feel it. Right. I said, don't pray, just fix it. But let me tell you the secret for me. Okay. The secret for me is you got to get outside of yourself. Okay. When I feel the worst about myself, when I'm with other people and I see the needs of other people and where I could be in spite of where I am, it brings a lot of reality to your situation. And man, most people get in their fields and they isolate, and that's trouble, man. That's dangerous. So can you see, but when you was going through it, this is your first time you really had a problem. That's the thing about it. Other people around me that help me see it. You don't see clearly all the time for yourself. You need somebody to help you. I know we had this conversation for a reason this morning. Yeah. Yeah, you keep it real. I like that. You need people around you, and just what you said today. You don't know who you spoke to just now. Right. Somebody out there is having a hard time. And so you were somebody else's clarity when they couldn't see it for themselves. I've watched a couple of shows, and you be sitting there. It's like the pastor, right? They started preaching that sermon. They say, I'm talking to you. Yeah. Right. And they pointed to and you be like, you feel like he's pointing directly at you, because the message was that message was meant for me today, right? Yeah. And so I'm not and I do, if you can look at me, and I always say God's still working on me, right? Yeah. I don't sit, people know my little spiel. I don't sit in the morning, but I do love God. Yeah. And I know God loves me. Yeah. And so if he can love me, right? Trust me, if he can love me, he love everybody. That's right. Yeah. Hey, look, I'm just glad to know that I get to be a part of it. And when I speak, you know, one thing that's important to me is I don't say you need to or you are. I say we are and we need to, because I'm right there in it with everybody else.
Okay.
The reality is I have tough days like everybody else.
Okay.
I just have to make a decision every day about who I'm going to be and the way I'm going to live my life. And so I could wake up today and choose to be completely different, positive or negative, than where I was yesterday. So it's a decision.
If you guys just locking in right now, we got the one and only Brandon Matthews is in the building, man. Motivation speaker, pastor. You know, he's gonna probably preach a little sermon to me today. You know, I'm gonna try to learn a little something from him. But I want to ask you this, Brandon. Are you originally from Birmingham, Alabama?
I am. I grew up in Birmingham, grew up in North Birmingham in the Pinson area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've lived here all my life. Live in Alabaster now.
Okay.
So we moved out there in 2011, started church. That was the reason that we moved. So we moved in. You go to Walmart, stand in the middle of the store, not know a soul.
Right.
You know, you can't do that where you're from.
Right.
You're going to talk to 15 people.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, Alabama, Birmingham's got my heart. We love this city.
Okay, so when you grew up in Pinson, brothers and sisters?
Have an older brother. Yeah, two-parent household. Got an older brother. Everybody in my household were they're mechanics. They work with their hands.
Okay.
I can't change the oil in my car. I was the only one in my house. Went to church, had a relationship with the Lord. So I'm completely different, but had a great example of hard work, of commitment in my family. You know, so I'm really thankful. They gave me the foundation.
So were you the kid in kindergarten walking to school with his Bible in his hand and with the white shirt and sneakers and dress shoes on?
Well, not the sneakers and the dress shoes, but I carried my Bible in my hand.
In kindergarten?
Not in kindergarten, but all through high school, I did carry one every day.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
So let's go back to when you was in kindergarten. What kind of kid were you?
I've always been a good kid. I think I've always been an outgoing kid. I've always been happy about life, joyful about life.
Okay.
But there's always been something in me that and I always attribute it to God. So let me just say that there's nothing that's inside of me that's inherently good. And I feel like the grace of God that's kept me. And, you know, I struggled with that.
Okay.
I was always envious of people that said, man, I was strung out on drugs for 15 years and changed my life. And I thought, man, that's so powerful. Like, I ain't got no story like that.
Right.
But what I realized was, and God convicted me on this, is that my story is that God can keep you over all that stuff in spite of myself, in spite of all the places everybody's one step from stupid. So in spite of all the places I could be, God was strong enough to keep me from all of that. And if he did it for me, he can do it for anybody else.
Now, that part I totally agree with you with. So when you was in, what middle school did you go to?
So I went to Mortimer Jordan High School, which is out in the Gardendale area. And so 7th through 12th grade was a small school. So it was all middle school. It was all middle school, high school, everybody together.
Oh, wow.
I was a little short kid too. Got off the school bus with spiked hair when everybody else had the surfer cut.
Yeah.
I got off the school bus like down here looking up at everybody, you know.
So that means you wasn't in sports.
I wasn't in sports, no.
No sports. So what did you do in high school?
So I play music. I'm a musician. What I'm doing right now, I've kind of always done. My uncle
in high school?
My uncle used to drive me around when I was 14, 15 years old to different places to speak. That's when I started speaking. He would get me in the truck. He'd say, hey, I booked you at so-and-so church or whatever.
So, okay. So did you think you could speak? Now I'm going to be honest. Yeah. Did you knew you was a speaker when you started doing the Christmas Easter speeches, or you knew before then?
You know, it was a natural progression. And so this is what I've always said with my life is I never set out for anything specific. I just always said yes to whatever God put in front of me. You know, some people wait to be the manager before they sweep the floors.
Right.
But I always said, hey, if I can sweep a floor, I'll sweep a floor.
Okay.
And then before you know it, somebody says, the manager didn't show up today. We need you to go in there and manage. So you just go in there and manage.
But what was your speaking experience that you knew, okay, I like this?
Yeah. I remember my uncle drove me out. I spoke to about 100 teenagers, scared to death. I was probably 15 years old. Okay. I didn't even take the chewing gum out of my mouth. You ever tried to chew with chewing gum in your mouth? I'm talking about bubble gum. I'm talking about thin chewing gum. It started to dissolve in my mouth. And the whole time I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this gum? And it's in my mouth. And I'm looking at everybody. I'm going, they hate this. This is awful.
Right.
And then a tornado siren went off.
Right.
And in the middle of me talking, everybody got up, walked out of the room. And I'm left in there by myself, tornado siren. I said, this was so bad, God had to send the tornado to stop this. But I left that night discouraged and fired up. I said, I want to do it again.
Really?
Wanted to do it again. I just knew. I said, this.
So no one talked to you after that experience? And how old were you? And how old were you at the time?
I was about 14 or 15.
Okay, so 14, 15.
Yeah, totally scared, totally intimidated. Yeah.
Okay. So you went home devastated?
Yeah. Yeah, I got your thing down because I was so bad.
So did mom talk to you? Dad talk to you? How did you get through that moment?
No, they didn't know anything about speaking. They didn't know anything about communication or anything. But there was something inside of me that recognized you can change an environment, you can change an atmosphere, you can change a person with a word you speak.
Brandon, We on Conference and Conversation, man. Come on now.
Yeah.
At 14, you just had a tornado siren tell you that you were trash.
Well,
and you went home, you're going to tell me, you're going to say that me and God had this conversation.
Well,
and I figured it out.
Look, not everybody will understand it. But when God puts something inside of it, unless you just get out of your own way and you just say yes to the opportunities, because somebody else, there was another opportunity. So I could have said yes, or I could have said no. You know, I went into the second one scared to death.
Okay.
But I learned, don't chew gum.
Okay.
I learned that day.
Okay.
There was no tornado siren. So I said,
Okay.
okay, this wasn't so bad.
Okay.
So I'm still learning, man. I'm still growing.
So
I'm not there yet.
The experience that you had, you was not going to be defeated.
I wouldn't. Yeah. Now look, I'll leave here today think, man, I should have said, or I can't believe I said.
Right.
But I'll learn and I'll grow. I'm not going to be defeated. I'll get better.
Right. No, because, you know, when I'm sitting on this, like Brandon said, you know, the tornado siren hit, I went home and mom and dad didn't talk to me. I went back next time and I knocked it on out the park the next time. Come on, bro. No.
No. I didn't say I knocked it out of the park. I just said I decided to do it again.
Right. So let me ask you, I want to be honest here. That first time you spoke, what did you speak about?
Man, I can't even tell you.
Okay.
I can't even remember the words I said.
So were you speaking, do you think you were speaking on something biblical, or was it just something to speak to people about?
Something biblical, yeah.
Okay,
it would have been something, you know, I'm big on, I say live life on purpose.
Okay.
Every day, every moment, it's intentional. I'll be telling them in the midst of the halls that they walk through, I'm conformed or whatever.
So how was your grades in school?
They were decent. I didn't love school. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't one to, as quick as I could get out, I got out.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't hanging around in the parking lot or going to find some extracurricular activity. I said 7 hours is enough. Send me home.
Right.
I worked, you know, at 16, I was a telemarketer. 2 years, didn't know the job, but I used to sit on the phone, cold call. 16, 2 years, my whole high school year.
Okay.
Most people didn't last half a day working telemarketing.
Yeah.
But man, I learned so much about communication, about people, about connecting with people. It was one of the greatest experiences.
You were different.
It was a great experience.
At 16, I was trying to talk to. I was on the phone, but I wasn't with no telemarketer. And my phone was attached to the wall.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So you worked as a telemarketer, you were 16 years old. When you graduated, did you know what you wanted to do? Did you go to college? Did you go in the military? What was that?
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a cameraman for the weather. So I wanted to chase storms. So I was getting back in the day, Bill Bolin, Fox 6.
Yeah.
I was working an internship with Bill Bolin. I had a message on my answering machine. Kept it for years from Bill Bolin.
Okay.
And was about to start that. I wanted to strap me to a tree and let me film that tornado.
Okay,
when it went
Twister.
by. I was so excited
Twister.
about it.
Okay, Twister.
But I graduated, and that summer, graduated me, and then in August of that year, I got hired at a church full time. And that changed my life. So I did youth ministry across 2 churches for 10 years. And then started the church in 2012.
Now, I like to talk about these things because as you was going into your college or you're going into your ministry after high school, what was the talk from mom and dad? Because we got people listening to us right now, right?
Yeah.
And kids going through certain things, may not know whether they want to do this. Did your mom and dad have that conversation with you, or did it kind of let you be free? How was that?
Yeah, they were just supportive. You know, that's the thing about growing up in the household I did. Who I was and the way that I lived life was just different than the way they did. So they didn't really know how to coach that. If I wasn't going to go turn a wrench or fix something mechanically, they didn't know how to. That's what he wants to do. He's make money, so let him. He's okay. You know, he ain't on the street, so they let me go. And I think to a degree, you know, they were. I think they were intrigued because they could see that it was something God was doing. They attributed it to the Lord. So when you look at things, most people think, they say God did that.
Yeah.
But when you can't explain it any other way, but just a grace of God on your life, just what you said, you ain't got to be in church a week just to know the grace of God on your life.
Right.
And so, it was a great experience. I go back and change it, you know, for anything.
I always ask this question because I love this part of your story. Who was your mentor then?
My mentor, I'll tell you, my uncle was probably one of the greatest mentors in my life.
Okay.
And they took me to church when I was a kid. You know, my parents didn't go. And he, I think, could recognize God's just call, what I would say God's call in my life.
Okay.
And so he invested a lot in me. He was the one that drove me around. He was the one that encouraged me. You know, we'd get back in the truck. He'd be like, that was awesome. I'm like, that wasn't awesome. But he would book me somewhere else. I mean, he was like my own little booking agent. You know, when I was 14, 15.
He was your manager.
He just called and said, hey, I got you booked over here here, we're going to go do that. We played in a band. I played in a band for 10 years, played music. We traveled all around, and he booked that stuff.
Wow.
And man, he was really mentoring. I didn't know he was mentoring me, but I look back
He
today,
looked after you.
I'm grateful for his investment. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Shout out to your uncle, man.
Yeah, big
that's
time.
huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. So when you worked in the church,
yeah,
you were 16, 17?
I was 18.
18 years old. You worked in the church at 18.
Yeah.
So you're 18-year-old young man, right? Handsome, right? Walk church, right? How was the experience? Like walking church, being a part of the church at 18? Because I know what I was doing at 18.
Yeah.
And it was not walking through the church doors.
Yeah,
okay. I was signing with Uncle Sam. You ready to go fight a war and there's a storm.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's huge. Yeah. Well, you know, the church that I walked into was a restart. So it was a church that had died and was being brought back. And you know what was cool about it is there's nothing. You can't make nothing worse. Right. It can only get better. And so I started going out into neighborhoods nobody would go to, and investing in kids that nobody would invest in, with a football and some snacks and cookies on a Saturday, and earn the respect of some of those kids. And then the leader of that neighborhood started inviting all the other kids to come be a part of it. And that little apartment complex gave us a vacant apartment on Wednesdays. We go in that vacant apartment and we'd meet with those kids and give them Jesus and feed them and spend time with them, encourage them. And then eventually we outgrew that apartment. And so we started bringing them in. So we was bringing in hundreds of kids every week from areas and parts of the community that nobody was going to invest in. They didn't have dads. They didn't have somebody, moms working 2 or 3 jobs. And so somebody that just said, hey man, you can do good things. You know, you can be anything you want to be. And for some of those kids, that was the first time they'd have a man say, I love you. I see purpose in your life. Right. And so when you start with nothing and you just go from there, I mean, you can't go wrong. So it was exciting. It was fun.
So at 18 years old, did you sort of like kind of devote yourself to the Lord?
Yeah.
So to speak.
And just wanted to see people do good. And I believe everybody have, not some, not a selection or a few, but everybody's got value. And unfortunately, I can tell you that it's not always the case in every church.
Right.
Sometimes some are welcome and not everybody.
Right.
Now God finds where we are, wants to make us better than when he found us. But I believe everybody come in. So we reach, even to this day, we bring people that's out of addiction centers. We bus them in, we bring them in, we love them. We're a part of who we are, our family. My son eats dinner with them every Friday night. People that's recovering from, you know, all kind of things because they're people. And we've got an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives.
Wow. I'm sitting here listening to you, right? Because, you know, you can get energy from people.
Yeah.
I can honestly say, Brandon, I feel your passion. I've interviewed many pastors.
Yeah.
Over my 12-year career. And it's tough to find or listen to someone that's not preaching or got a stump speech, what I so call.
Yeah.
As I'm listening to you today here, you know, tell your story to us, it's refreshing. Let me just say that. Because in the society we live in today, and that our audience knows just listening right now, you don't know where to turn. Everybody's doing something for a clickbait or for some reason or some condition. And we're so separated as a country now or as a humanity. That's right. As people. It's good for you and I to sit here. And I'm just going to keep real here conversation as a black man and a white man can sit here and have a conversation and say it's okay to love everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, if people can understand the energy and the vibe and love that you have, that we see right here, that I feel, right? I haven't heard this or felt this besides when I do this.
Yeah.
And there are good people out there,
That's
you know what I mean? And so I really appreciate, you know, you having this conversation with you today, because I think people need to see more of this than what we're actually seeing so much of.
That's right.
Because I think the better part of us is this.
That's right.
The noise is what we get advertised to.
Yeah.
But this is who we are. Right. I love you. I have a short story myself about the word I love you. Men don't say this to each other. Think about that now, especially as a black man.
Yeah.
A black man is not going to walk up to another black man and say, I love you, bro.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, bro, what?
Yeah.
What? Bro, get away from me, right?
Yeah.
And so I learned when I was in radio on WYD 101.1. Like you said, I don't know if it's a God thing, Brandon. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my listeners. They called in and we went back and forth. We went hard at each other, right? In debating politics, right? And for whatever reason it was, before we hung up the phone, I said, I love you, man. And he was like, what?
Yeah.
I said, I love you. And he said, I love you too. Right. And that became my thing. And I had never said that before in my life.
Yeah.
But I felt, again, I don't know how God talked to you. Sometimes you just move, right? But
yeah,
I said the words, I love you, because we had really been heated, but it wasn't heated to the point where I didn't like the guy. We just disagreed on the points.
Yeah.
But when I said I love you, I think that broke the ice, not just for me and him, but I think it broke the ice for my thousands of listeners that day.
Yeah.
Because guess what happened after that? No one called in about anything else we were talking about. They called in and started telling me about, wow, you said I love you to somebody. How wonderful is that? We love you, like blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, my show went crazy after that from those 3 simple words.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask you this, Brandon, because you're a pastor. What's the difference between these 3 words? I hate you, I love you.
I'll tell you, commitment's a big one in there. Because you don't take commitment to have somebody, but it takes commitment to love somebody. If you're going to overcome difference, you're providing right here is a commitment. You guys work hard on this. So the opportunity to share moments like this because of your commitment to doing what you do. So it presents hurt. It could be just cultural things that we've been told. And so we dismiss people, say, I hate you, I don't like you. And all of that is so superficial. There's no commitment in doing that. But it takes somebody that's willing to sit down and have a conversation to realize we're not so different.
Right.
You're not so divided that people think that we are. And so any great thing comes from commitment. You won't find one thing in life that's not that happens that didn't come from great commitment. Overnight success is not true. There is no overnight success. They were committed to the process. What you do privately is what produces you publicly.
As a pastor, you said you've been doing this since you was 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Is it harder for a human being to say, I love you? Or is it hard for a human being to say, I hate you?
It's hard to be committed or uncommitted. It's hard to be committed because that's something from you. Okay. So when actions that go with it, a lot of people say, I love you. You got people they get married all the time. And it's like they're, Prince Charming and the princess up there. But the reality is one day they're going to wake up, look at their spouse and go, how did I get here? Who are you? You thought you're getting a prince and you got Shrek. You know what I'm saying? Like that's but the commitment goes above that. And so it's a lot harder to look at somebody and sincerely say, I love you. Because if I love you, there's action that comes with it.
Because I think when you say I hate you, there's action too, right? There's emotion behind that too. Is that a commitment? Because if somebody
has something that's negative, a hate, it's coming from a hurt.
Okay.
There's always a deep wound. The alcohol is not the problem. The drug isn't the problem. The overeating isn't a problem. All of these are just results of a deeper issue. There's a deeper wound somewhere. Somebody had a hard time saying, I love you, speaking those words because they were never said, I love you, or they were never really shown what that really means in action. So when somebody says something that's like, I hate you, or something negative, oftentimes it's coming from a place or they have that realization moment for themselves. Suddenly it's an internal breakdown, and suddenly you ain't the problem anymore. And they can say, I really felt that way about you, but I was just struggling here and I cast my problem on you. So it really was never about hate. There was never, but to overcome that, it took some commitment to fix it for yourself and then some commitment to the care for you to go make it right.
Touche.
1
point for Pastor. Let's go here. You have a lovely wife.
Yes.
How did you meet?
Crazy. So I was hanging out at a place where I was playing music for a guy. We were playing music together.
Mm-hmm.
She walked in the door. I said, "Who is this?"
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of got to know each other just a little bit. Nothing, just playing music together. And I was actually speaking one night. A conversation I was going to be speaking somewhere, and it was an event. It was probably not the safest for her to be showing up. She had driven home an hour away,
right?
And she said, "This is her words." She said, I just felt that you need to go there. So she turned around, close to home, drove down there, showed up. I was shocked she was there. I said, "What are you?"
Had you seen her before?
She never seen me speak before.
Okay.
I said, what are you doing here? She said, "I just felt like I was supposed to come and hang out."
Right.
So when it was over, I said, "You want to go get something to eat?" So we went to Applebee's. Come on, that's where love happens, at Applebee's. Come on, I did it big. Applebee's.
We're gonna stop the interview. I'm done. I'm done with you.
Oh man, we became best friends. We met
found love.
At the Applebee's.
At Applebee's,
and we were married within 6 months. We just knew. We hit it off. We didn't even start. Somebody said, "When was your first date?" I said, "I don't know." We were just out doing life together.
So I got to ask you this, right? Let's that she was the one. When did you feel it? Like, what did love feel like for you when you met her? What did love feel like?
Yeah, well, and this is what I think is different, because I never experienced this before. I think it's different, is that I didn't go into it for love. I wasn't looking for something. I didn't look at her when I met her as, I'm gonna date this girl. It's gonna be a romantic relationship. We just really became friends. We just started living life as talking on the phone, text. I didn't have text messages back then. I used to say, if somebody wants to talk to me, they just call me on the phone. I ain't texting nobody. So she texts. So I started texting, and then they charged me a whole bunch of money. And that's when I got a text message plan. So it was back then, and we just started talking, and then eventually, just one day we sat and said, "You want to do this forever? Let's get married." And that's what we did. So it started as a friendship. We wasn't looking for something romantic. And today, nearly 17 years in, we're still best friends.
Okay, so because I'm always curious about love, man. I'm very curious about it. Right. What did love feel like? I understand the moment, but what did it feel like for you, knowing? Was it a butterfly feeling? When she texts you, were you happy?
Oh, yeah.
Or, as a man, because women always ask me this question, when a man likes a woman, what does it make him want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So were you making sure that what was your priorities at the time when you realized that she was the one?
My priority said, if she's going to text, I'm going to get a text message plan.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted to be there. And I said, I ain't heard from her. She texts me. What, something. So when everything's good in the beginning.
Preach.
But then you realize, well, you got some baggage too. And you don't do this the way I would do it. You have those friction moments.
Yeah.
But it was level. And I'll tell you what changed my mind in her life. She was out of a season of living like just bad decisions, bad company, all that stuff.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, she came by my house one day. She said, "Hey, here's my new phone number." I said, "What'd you get a new phone number for?" She said, "Well, I didn't want nobody in my old life being able to get a hold of me. I'm starting fresh." And she brought me that number. And that's when I knew something is different about this girl. And I sensed the commitment and the change in her life.
I like that. And the reason why I'm going to say that, I hope your wife is listening, because I think when couples are in the relationship, it takes two to commit.
That's right.
The word we talk about today is commit.
Yeah.
Right. It takes two to commit.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I'm going to ask you this, Pastor, do you not think that in today's age that women, I may get in a little trouble when I say this, they want us to commit.
Yeah.
But we don't, we show our commitment, but the woman don't have to show us that they're committed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we keep going until they're satisfied.
Yeah.
But I love what you said. Thank you. I love what you said, that she saw something in you.
Yeah.
She and opened up the Bruno Mars door for you and said, "I'm gonna leave the door open. Now, here it is." Right. And that's the level of commitment, which changed you and said, something. that was different though.
That's different.
It wasn't you doing what she did that.
That's right.
So that's what I'm saying. When people are watching this show today, that's a moment that I'm listening to, like, wow, we got to do better.
Yeah.
In the space of love and marriage and talking about it's a commitment, even in the dating stage or the collecting data stage, what some people like to say, right? That at some point, and I'm gonna ask you when, because women are scared to commit because we're players.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna lie and cheat with them.
Sure.
How do a woman know? Because they are afraid.
Mm-hmm.
They listen to me like I know they are.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
How do a woman know?
Yeah.
When she need to commit and open up the door a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to the very foundation of the question you asked earlier. It's easy to love or it's easy to hate. In a relationship, it's a lot easier to walk away. They just don't serve me anymore. So it's like an expression you could say of hate, it's negativity there. But it takes a lot more love than to be committed because you got to be in it. Two-way street. So there was things about me in our conversation that she saw that I would work through. What it is that we want somebody, right? You got a top 10 list. I want her to be this,
Right.
and have a pocket. But most don't stop and go, I want these two. What receptive of other things? You got to be attracted. If you want somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who's got character and integrity, you got to be that person. And I think most of the time, two people go into that. Somebody expect to get that for the her, I could see not the mess that she had gotten her life into, but I saw her for who she was.
How?
And today she's a power. I'm just telling you, I can't explain it. I think it's just I saw someone who was discouraged and who was defeated. I saw that she was a place where she regretted some of the decisions that she had made, and she felt like she'd never get out of that. But all she was somebody just to believe in her, pulling her up and her down. And man, she rose like a rocket. I mean, she came out of it and found herself, and God changed her life of a woman, man.
Let me ask you this, as you speak, because I love the way in the passion, I love the love you have in your eyes for your wife.
I could see her where she was, but when she took, I had to start running. to catch up.
Okay.
And so she makes me have to be better. I can't coast. To this day, she's growing and she's getting better and she's hustling, and I have to keep up with her. So it's made me better. It compliments me to go, I can't coast. I can't fall behind.
Keep you on your feet.
She's keeping me on my feet. You know, we do life still is friends. I say we're better. We are different because most people become friends and they find they got married in the first. They become business partners.
Right.
Just transactions in life.
Right.
But we've worked hard. It has been easy.
Brandon Matthews in the building. Y'all boys are like having some coffee and a conversation. And, you know, I'm in part of his story now about this lovely wife. You know, and it was a tough day you had. Right?
Yeah.
Go back to the toughest day that you had.
Yeah.
How you felt, how you knew she was feeling. For our listeners out there, right? How you approached it and how you got through it.
Yeah. Well, I don't approach it always in the healthy, and I'll tell you what that means inside. But one thing that I've learned is that unspoken expectation always equal unmet. Expectations.
Yes.
And so when I internalize it and don't speak it, see it, so let's talk about it. Right. But she'd be like, well, okay, if that's what you say. Right. And then that made me madder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like I had to.
Us as men get through our ego, what that is.
Yeah.
Right. And expectations that we throw out there because you're my wife, you should know.
Yeah.
Right. I'm still working at it myself. How do we get through that, man?
Well, for me, I recognize that if I want this to be healthy and I want this to last, then I'm going to have to do something. Some life better. If you want life to be better, you got to be better. If you want things to change, you change. So I recognize I want this marriage to be healthy. I've got to be healthy. And if I want this marriage to be a fun place to you do. I can't control my wife. If she falls off the edge to steps in the stoop, I can't control her.
Right.
But I can control me. What I've learned is if I can keep myself healthy, keep myself between they're trying to do the same, we're all better together. So my responsibility really is to make every other relationship.
Let me take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me.
That's right.
And we'll both be okay.
100%.
Right. You say that. So when you started building your church, how did
standing in my kitchen one night, I recognized the relationship was, we deeper and more committed. I said, what I'm going to do one day. It's what I feel like I've got to do. I said, if you're not on board with that,
speaking for, because you don't think she just took that position of power?
No, because I felt it disrespectful if I didn't, because I wasn't going to take her somewhere she didn't have no desire to go.
Okay.
And if she didn't have a desire to go there, then I already knew we were missing something wasn't right.
Okay.
And I want the best for her.
You painted the picture for her.
I painted the picture. And she said,
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
sure,
but it's a tough one.
Yeah.
As the church started to grow and become what it is today, did that start to pull your marriage further apart because of the dedication and what it took to actually run a church?
No, because it started with a tough conversation standing in the kitchen. And it was clear from the beginning. I didn't lead her into something she wasn't signed up for or wasn't passionate about or didn't desire. She loves it as much as I do. And her commitment and her sacrifice has been as great as mine, with as much equal passion, because we went into it with a partnership. She didn't go into it going,
so she's your equal partner.
She's my equal partner. We do it together, 50-50. We do it together.
No holds barred.
Listen, we spent our savings. We saved up for 6 months of living before we started to move out there. We spent our savings, every dime we had, to get the thing started.
She was in with you.
She was in with me. Right.
Her
there.
money, your money.
Yep, that's right.
Wow. Now,
I'll tell you one thing that's crazy.
Go ahead.
When we moved out in 2011, it's when all the tornadoes happened from Tuscaloosa to Coleman County, wiped out all the rental properties, because people who were displaced from their homes took all the rental properties. When we moved on the weekend, we had nowhere to go. Our house was being rented on Saturday. The friends that we planted the church with were in Gulf Shores, renting their place, moving to Birmingham. We had no house. We found a house on Friday night that somebody would rent to us that had been on the market for sale. We moved 2 families in one house so that we could go ahead and move to the city and rented it a year. They lived upstairs. We lived downstairs. It was the craziest thing. So you tell me another woman in a situation like this, that's commitment. I knew right then, you're going to move your life, 2 families in one house to start our dream, what we felt like we were called to do.
I've been around people that has been in those that had those situations, but at some point somebody gets tired.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they fall off.
That's right.
Because even though I agree with you, Brandon, in that kitchen.
Yeah.
And I signed up for this.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a time that you can say, I'm riding with you, bro.
Yeah.
I got you, baby.
Yeah.
But nah, man, I ain't signed up for this.
Well, that's when the 6 months money ran out. She said, I'm ready to eat. What are we going to do to pay the bills?
Yeah.
So that changed everything. I had worked in churches for 10 years. I had to go out and find money so I could pastor a church and grow an organization.
See, that's what we
and
got to
bring
talk
home
about.
money.
See, that's the part. There we go. So after 6 months,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You were tested and she was tested.
That's right.
Because now, was my little man involved?
Not yet.
Point?
No,
Not
sir.
yet. So it was just you and her.
That's right.
Okay, so what was that like? Because now you're being tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? God
Yeah.
is in the picture. You got
Yeah.
the church, you got the congregation.
Yeah.
But now finances is there. So what did that
That's
look
right.
like?
I'll give you the short story of it. So I
Sure.
went and bought a little cargo van.
Okay.
And I contracted with companies here in Birmingham doing courier work. I drove 400 miles a day phone calls, writing Sunday messages and stuff in the car, all the stuff going down the road, 400 miles, delivering lab rats, caskets, medical supplies, all this stuff. Did it for about 2.5 years. And I'm telling you, you talk about wrestling. I said, God, this ain't what I moved to this city for.
Right.
I was already doing this full time. And now I'm out here hustling 2 things just to try to make one thing happen. Like, what did I do wrong? This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Beating my head against the steering wheels, pouring down rain, and walking the streets of Birmingham with all this stuff. But long story short, I ended up going to work for Apple. Worked for Apple for nearly 3 years. My wife and I learned in 2013, she had ectopic pregnancies. We couldn't get pregnant. So then there was another struggle on top of our relationship dynamic, walking through that emotionally, physically, all the things. Well, we couldn't afford in vitro back then. We were hustling, trying to start an organization. But because I worked for Apple, I learned we had national health care that covered in vitro. We got 3 attempts to it. It took us 3 attempts to have our son. So I always say Apple bought our kid. Yeah. Apple bought our kid. So my son was born in May of 2016. By January of 2017, we left those jobs and we went full time leading the organization that we were sent there in the city to start. So we hustled for 5 years. But let me tell you, when I was sitting there beating my head going, mad at God, you talk about frustrated. God, this ain't what I come here to do. What am I doing out here doing all these other things and doing these jobs? And God's like, if you just be quiet, you're going to want a kid and you can't afford the kid. And there's a reason you can't have them on your own without some help. So just be quiet. Do what I put in front of you. And when you get your kid, then you can go do what I called you to do full time.
I've had a couple of pastors and a couple of friends on this show, Brandon. And if my audience who watch this show knows I'm about to ask you, how did God talk? How does God talk to you? Does he come in a voice? Is it a male voice, female voice, feeling, intuition? How does he talk to you?
Yeah, I don't hear God audibly. So I don't know if his voice is deep or high pitched. I don't know. We may get to heaven and be like, God, that's what you sound like.
Right.
But for me, I got to be in God's word every day. And so sometimes I'll read a verse. I'll tell you what's crazy is in the book of Psalms, you got you got this guy, he's complaining like everybody else is blessed. And for me, my life's this. But then he gets to a point in the scripture and he goes, but you know what? Then I recognize I got in the presence of God and I recognize. And there'll be days I'd just be out there going, God, I can't believe I'm complaining about this, and open up God's word. And I go, but you know what? I can be that guy complaining, or I can be the guy over there celebrating. And I have to make a decision that day about who I'm going to be. So God used the word. God will use people come along, say something to me, catch my attention, make me, understand I'm missing it. I got a bad attitude or whatever the case may be. So God speaks through people, speaks through his word, all crazy ways God can speak to you. Yeah.
Right. Because, when I'm doing this show and I'm talking to people, right, I've always wondered myself personally, how do we have a relationship with God? Because I hear a plethora of people talk about it.
Yeah.
You've heard it preached, where they hooping and hollering, or they just preaching on the Catholic sermon, pulpit. But then you get in a room by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, God, when you gonna appear?
Yeah.
When you gonna talk to me? When read these verses and then he appeared.
Yeah.
And the light came.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking around on my dark days, Brandon. I'm like,
that's right.
All right, bro. Did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
Am I still your child? What would you say to people?
Yeah.
That feel that way? They believe in. They was brought up in God, but they feel that way. But now it's tough.
Yeah.
I say it different ways on this show, but I love to hear from pastors, right, that have been doing this for a long time. What do you say to your flock? Like, when things are bad, God is there, but
the reason I'm here today, sitting on this seat, having a conversation with you, is because you invited me. I wouldn't be here unless you invited me. And there's a lot of people looking for God to spend time with him, to experience him, to hear from him, receive from him, but they've never invited him. They may gave him a checklist. Hey, God, look, I'm going to leave this list on the table. Here's some things I need you to do. I'll check in when I get home from work, see how you do.
That's good.
But the reason that I'm sitting here is because I'm invited. God can take care of all that stuff. But what he really wants to do is to sit with you. And you made some statements. You said, I don't know if it was God or not, but I felt this and I did this. And the only way you know if it's God or not is you give God the opportunity to show you. See, God is big enough for any of our questions. You can't offend God by a question you've got. You won't offend God by your anger or any expression you got. So I always say, just give God room to show it. So if you're sitting in a minute and you go say, God, I don't know if you're there. I don't know if his Bible's true. I don't know what that little preacher said up there, if any of that's true.
Right.
But if you are, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to give you room. I'm going to invite you.
Like
you
that.
show me. I don't need anybody else to show me. When
like
I
that.
speak to people and I give them the word, I say, you don't do it because I told you to. You don't believe anything because I said it. You believe it because it's in God's word.
Wow.
And he brought it to you.
Like
so anything I say should only be reinforced by what you read in the word. And you give God room and invitation to do it. And God's big enough to do it. It's crazy. And I can't explain it all.
Right.
But I can just tell you, when you give him room to sit down with you, he'll do it.
All right, y'all. If y'all was just locking in right now, we about to get ready to get up here, but I got a few more things I got to talk to the pastor about here. Brandon Matthews in the building. Gonna be talking on TEDx here in a few minutes. I got to get to this part of your story. My little man.
Yeah.
The Apple baby.
Yeah.
What's his name? How old is he?
Asher Jackson.
Okay.
Matthews. He's 9 years old.
Where did the name come from?
So Asher means happy and blessed.
Okay.
And so my wife brought the name Asher. I said, I don't know about that. Asher. I wasn't sure about it. There's a lot of Ashers now, but there wasn't at the time.
Okay.
And she said he means happy and blessed. And so we prayed that he would always be happy and he'd be blessed. Mm-hmm. And God has fulfilled that in his name. Good. Jackson, I came up with because it means God has been gracious and shown favor. Mm-hmm. And we've prayed that over his life. And so he's a great kid, man. He started playing drums when he was like 2 years old. People go back on my social media and see him. People think I lied, but it's true. It's there. Right. He was playing drums when he was 2. He's a good kid. He loves the Lord. I either say he's either going to be in jail or he's going to be a good businessman or a pastor because he's got that. He's got that in it. You don't know what he's always cutting the deal or doing something good. But he's a good kid. Everything that I complained about, I have to apologize to the Lord every day because it was worth it. It was worth it.
Let me ask you this here because I know the first time that I heard this word, the first time your son looked you in your eyes and he said the words "dad." What was that like?
It's life-changing. It's life-changing.
Talk about it.
You can't. What's crazy about having a kid is when I look at him and I get so frustrated. So why are you doing what you're doing? And then I pause and I go, wait a second. It's me. You see yourself in your kids. And when you really, because if you pause, the life gets so busy, the kids can be so crazy, it can be hectic. But when you pause and you really look at this little individual that's in front of you, and the craziest thing about it is you hear them say your name, you see them grow, is you recognize I'm responsible for this little guy. Yeah. But the principle that I think for everybody, whether it's in their business or it's in life, is that we don't own anything and nothing's ours. Everything's a stewardship thing. So I recognize he's not mine. He belongs to God. He was a gift to God. From God that God gave me, and I'm to steward his life. Your gifts, your abilities, this show, your audience, it don't belong to you. It wasn't given to you because of you. Right. It's something God, I believe, gave. And so we steward it well. We take care of it so it can be all it can be. So I just think about one day he's got to leave the nest, and I don't want to mess it up. You know what I mean? I need him to contribute to society. I don't need to mess anything up.
It's so crazy, right? Because I didn't get a chance to do this the way you did.
Yeah.
Your child was born. You was able to look into your wife's eyes, right? What was that moment like when you looked into her eyes and she held that baby for the first time?
Well, it was crazy because it was C-section. They brought me in late on the wrong end. Baby. So I wasn't prepared when I walked in the room. So it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't beautiful. And then when he was born, he looked like Benjamin Button. Have you ever seen Benjamin Button? I said, this is what we waited on. That's what we waited on.
I know you're not doing this.
I mean, that's just the truth.
Okay.
He wasn't cute little thing. I said, oh, this is it. But once it all settled down,
right.
I said, he was born 2 months early. He was 3 pounds, 15 ounces, tiny little thing. And so we went through it. My wife was, she had preeclampsia. So we were in the hospital for weeks, trying to keep him in and the whole 9 yards. She swelled up like a cartoon character. I mean, it was a wild ride. So it really made us appreciate every little thing. So when we were able to sit and go, wow, look what God's done. Yeah. This journey of it, we're really blessed. We counted our blessings. I still to this day, I'll tell my son, we'll drive through Birmingham. I'll see Children's Hospital. I'll say, hey, buddy, that hospital right there is full of sick kids. And I said, that could be us. I said, we need to pray for them and be grateful for every day we've got. Don't complain because it could always be something different. Right. And so it's a humbling experience. That's the best thing I can say. It's humbling as parents. It's humbling to be a dad. And it's a great responsibility that, that you realize you get one shot. Man,
hearing the story from you growing up to your family now, having a church, motivational speaker. And then all of a sudden one day, Brandon, you get a phone call, right? TEDx calls you. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, man, it's a dream. TEDx is a dream. I'll tell you my story of TEDx is kind of crazy because I had someone reach out to me who's a TEDx speaker, top 100, and through LinkedIn, saw my business, what I do there, and said, "Hey, I think you could do this. I think it'd be great." And it was always a hidden desire, something you aspire to as a communicator. I said, "Oh man, this is it right here." And so we went through the process, had a one-on-one conversation, and then they said, "It's $30,000 for us to help you get you there." And I said, "Ain't no way. No way." I said, "If God wants," it's what I said. If God wants me to speak TEDx, God will provide a platform for TEDx.
Right.
And so I got off that call, man. I was so discouraged. I said, "This is it. This is the opportunity." But it sparked something in me. Well, it probably was less than a week later. My buddy Sanchez Tannehill sends me a text. TEDx is coming to our area. Couldn't believe it. So I talked to them, the organizer, not long after, and was accepted out of, there's 15 speakers, over 300 applicants from all over the world, and was accepted. And I remember saying, if this is what God wants to do, then God will do it. So I went from deflated in defeat, $30,000, to now I'm going to be on TEDx in August.
Now, I want to ask you this also, because how I want to go here. You speaking at TEDx is a dream.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what about, okay, you have a flock that you speak to every Sunday. You have campuses, on churches, right?
That's right.
That's TEDx in my mind.
Yeah.
That would be a TEDx for me, because you get to say what you want to say.
That's right.
And you travel around the world.
Yeah.
So for you as a pastor, what's different between that pulpit and that stage on TEDx?
This is the difference. It's all about audience. It's all about reaching people. I always say about my life, I want to leave the people and the places that I go better than I found them. And so I have influence in the areas that within the church, but there's a lot of people who's not in the church, but there's a lot of people who are impacted by the TEDx platform from all over the world. They're going to watch these videos when they hit the TEDx platform. So I get a moment, an opportunity to say something that's going to add value to all of those people. When I go into businesses, I'm not going into businesses with a sermon, but I'm going into business to change that culture, to make that place better for every person that is there. Life is all about people. Products wouldn't exist without people.
Right.
Profit wouldn't exist without people. So if we invest in people, that's what makes a difference in life. So to me, the TEDx platform is another opportunity to add value to the lives of people, just in a completely different lane.
So if people right now want to come hear you speak, because I'm quite sure they're fascinated by your story, and I have no idea what you're going to speak about, I'm going to be there. How do they get in touch with FedEx, and what they need? So
they need to check out TEDxalabaster.com. It's a lineup of all the incredible speakers. It's an honor to be a part of so many incredible speakers. It is going to be a dynamic day. They can get their tickets there, buy those online for the day. They're going to sell out fast.
Yes.
So seating is limited. Yeah. So I would encourage people to go ahead and pick those up at TEDxalabaster.com. They can reach out to me at brandonmatthews.com, and I can help point them in the right direction or help them with any other thing that in their business, changing the culture, any way I can serve people.
Let's talk about a little bit about brandonmatthews.com. What's there?
Yeah. So I always say helping people love what they do, where they do it, and who they do it with. People hate work. They love the weekend, but the weekend don't last long enough.
Right.
You think about the cycle of life. When you're a kid, you can't wait to grow up.
Right.
And so you long for it. You grow up. Then when you grow up, all you want to do is make money. And then when you get old, you want to be a kid again, and you spend all that money trying to gain your health that you lost trying to gain the money. And most people get to the end of their life and go, where did it all go? Because we live for the weekend. Monday rolls around and we're miserable. We spend over a third of our life working. That's a lot of misery in life. Yeah. So what could change in every person's life, the quality of the life they live in entirety, if they didn't dread Monday? Instead of Sunday night going, oh, it's Monday again. What if they said, it's Monday again?
Right.
And so I help provide transformational change in the culture of businesses that make their employees want to be there. Everybody's disengaged. Companies are losing thousands and thousands of dollars right now because of disengaged employees that aren't doing anything because they don't want to be there. But if they can turn that around, it changes everything. Changes the profit, changes the culture, changes the customer experience. So that's what I'm passionate about doing when I say, if somebody goes to brandonmatthews.com and say, what can you do for me? We can change the life of your entire organization and make you money because of it.
And if they want to hear you on Sundays?
Yeah, they can check me out at cultivatechurch.tv. We got a campus in Alabaster, campus in Columbiana. They can watch us live at 10:15 a.m. every Sunday. And I say it's a whosoever will place. Somebody say, what do I got to wear? I say, clothes. Just come on in. Nobody's going to pressure you, bother you. We just want you to be there. The only personality that we're worried about is the personality of Jesus. So it don't matter who's on the platform, what's happening. And so if we can add value in any way, spiritually, professionally, or personally, to help and enhance somebody's life, that's what I want to do.
I didn't ask you this earlier. Are you what denomination are you? Or are you non-denominational?
Non-denominational.
That's what I kind of
because you put a denomination on the wall. Not that denominations are bad, but somebody's already got a preconceived idea before you get there. If you drive up to McDonald's, you're gonna judge it by the last McDonald's you had, and this may be the best McDonald's you ever walked into.
Right.
Maybe a total different management, total different quality of service, whatever. But you've already judged it before you got in the door. So we want people to judge Jesus, not the church.
Last question. It's probably easy for you. To the 8-year-old Brandon Matthews, once you look back at him, what would you say to him now from everything you've learned?
Oh man, 8-year-old Brandon Matthews. I say just buckle up and just stay the course because it's worth it. You know how many times we miss things in life because we give up? There's no telling what I've missed out on because I gave up. But in life, we all like to plant seeds and we sit there and watch the ground waiting for something to sprout, and it don't sprout. You know what most people do? They dig it up, try to move it somewhere else. And you know what happens every time you dig a seed? It dies. But every seed planted has potential to be something great if you just stay the course, stay committed, stay faithful to it. So if I could go back and say to 8-year-old me, I'd say, man,
hold on.
Stay with it.
Don't stay right there. You'll be fine.
Yeah, stay with it.
Wow. Man, I have enjoyed this conversation with you, man. I look forward to seeing you on the stage of TEDx in Alabaster in August, man. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Big honor.
All right, guys. Y'all heard it here, man. I'm going to talk with the pastor, see can he, teach me how to stay married. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, man. Y'all make sure y'all stay locked in. Tomorrow we have One-on-One, a new show coming out, y'all. 12 noon. Make sure you guys lock it in for that. Also, we have let me see. I think tomorrow also we got Denise. Her show is going to be on tomorrow, and we're going to be doing another live later on today, talking about the different things and the different things that's going on in Lock It In Media. Y'all, thank y'all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I sip my last sip of coffee with y'all, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.